28th of October 2023, the Stade de France Paris, the Rugby World Cup final. A coliseum filled with thousands of delirious fans covered head to toe in green. The hope of a nation at stake, rugby history set to be made. However, instead of emerald green and the shamrock clover, the tinge was ominously darker and the emblem a springbok. 455 days on top of the IRB rugby rankings and the expectation of being in the final, Ireland found themselves exiting rugby's ultimate prize 2 weeks prior in yet another heartbreaking quarter-final loss. Unlucky Ireland's worst nightmare had come true again. The streak continues. This has prompted discussion around Ireland and their abysmal World Cup performances. Is it a case of Lady Luck simply deserting them, or is there something more to it?
It's binary. It's either you win or you lose. You either get to a semi-final or you go out, you get bounced out of quarter-final. And unfortunately, like every other Irish team before, they got bounced out in a quarter-final.
Well, join us as we take a look at Rugby World Cup's greatest underachievers, Ireland. A nation with a proud rugby history, Ireland have produced some of the finest players to ever grace this game, boasting as many IRB Player of the Year recipients as South Africa and France, and more than England and Australia. Synonymous with Irish Rugby are images of Six Nations titles and dazzling displays of attacking prowess. The names of Brian O'Driscoll, Keith Wood and Johnny Sexton have made the world stop and stare. It seems perplexing then that a nation able to hold their heads so high are left with tears and tragedy once every 4 years. You see, Ireland has the unfortunate record of never having passed the quarter-final stage of a Rugby World Cup. Having competed in every tournament to date, Ireland have been harshly branded as chokers and constant underachievers.
I think Andy Farrell says, I hope it doesn't define this team. This team, I enjoyed watching this team for 2 years.
The Irish have often entered the tournament as strong contenders, and yet a semi-final showing has eluded them time and again. The luck of the Irish? Well, apparently not.
Two good teams out there, playing some outstanding rugby, and unfortunately for us we came out on the wrong side of the score.
Ireland took part in the inaugural edition of the World Cup in 1987, finishing runners-up in their pool to Wales. Heading into the quarters, Ireland came up against Australia and was subsequently sent packing. 4 years later, deja vu. Ireland again losing out on top spot in their pool and facing Australia again in the quarters. The Wallabies, led by captain Nick Farr-Jones, narrowly beat the gutsy Irish by 1 point, having survived an epic challenge in Dublin. Australia would go on to win the tournament, with Ireland being their most difficult opponent.
Irish defensive pattern which hadn't changed the whole game. The scrum went well, we got it out, and my job in that particular move after passing was just to support the ball, stay inside the ball and support the ball carrier. Campo got the ball out in the right-hand touchline there, and one-on-one, 15 yards out, he scores.
What could have been if the great Michael Lynagh never scored that last gasp try to break Irish hearts? Would Ireland have gone on to make history? Well, this began a trend of asking, what if? At the 95 tournament, Ireland would once again throw their name into the hat, hoping to make the Final Four. Alas, they had the unfortunate reality of coming up against a New Zealand outfit with a certain Jonah Lomu lurking in the wings to wreak havoc. And that he did, as New Zealand defeated Ireland in the group stage, with Lomu dotting down twice. Once again, for the third consecutive tournament, Ireland had booked their ticket to a quarter-final, only to be sent packing by giant lock Abdel Benazzi and his cohorts. Now, being joint hosts in 1999, Ireland hoped to prove that they belonged amongst the elite. They would place second to eventual winners Australia, ensuring another quarter-final showdown. This time, destiny slated that they meet Los Pumas in the quarter-finals.
We were a good team, and we had done lots of great things, and we had taken a couple of scalps, and we'd come close. We just quite hadn't put the hammer down and quite hadn't taken anything yet, and would prove in the years to follow that we would have great moments as a squad together.
For the fourth consecutive tournament, they bowed out at their bogey stage in a narrow loss. The 2003 edition of the World Cup carried with it a different feel for the Irish. For the first time, Ireland entered the tournament with a certain pizzazz about them. They were led by the recipient of the first ever IRB Player of the Year award, Keith Wood. With Wood and the great Brian O'Driscoll, the side was expected to go far. Along with the obvious improvement in star power, Ireland entered the tournament in fine form. Ireland was grouped with both Australia and Argentina in the group of death. Narrowly beating Argentina, they would suffer a 1-point loss to silver medalist Australia and place second in the group. They met a French side filled with typical flair in the quarter-finals and once again were eliminated. The 2007 and 2011 build-ups to the World Cup told similar tales leading into it, with Ireland once again expected to do well. Embarrassingly though, the men in green would find themselves exiting in the group stage for the first time in their history during 2007. 2011, however, got off to a great start as Ireland topped their group for the first time ever, but once again a quarter-final exit. 2015 rolled around and surely this time it had to be different. Ireland, captained by Paul O'Connell, had won the 2014 and 2015 Six Nations and comfortably topped their World Cup group. This squad had a total of 1,000 plus test caps. However, this proved to be of no avail. This time it was Argentina who sent them home again. Having completed a Grand Slam in 2018, Ireland entered the tournament as one of the favourites, hoping that they had not peaked too early like before. They finished runners-up to host Japan and then met New Zealand in the quarter-final, only to suffer a demoralising loss.
That's probably one of the things I need to get over mentally, is getting past that quarter-final stage. But Ireland's just shown in the last, this cycle especially, that they are world class.
Following this, Ireland stepped up their game and truly emerged as a rugby superpower, holding #1 spot for almost 500 days. New head coach Andy Farrell and his Irish outfit, which blended youth and experience, were becoming a cause for concern to all comers. Again, Ireland achieved the Grand Slam leading up to the World Cup. It seemed that a once green side was beginning to hit its straps at the right time. Several of their players were entering their prime, Van der Fleer being awarded the 2022 Player of the Year and an opportunity for 2018 version winner Johnny Sexton to make one last hurrah at rugby's greatest honour. Ireland was drawn with world champion South Africa and Six Nations rivals Scotland, who in their own right seemed to be peaking at the correct time as well. Ireland found themselves in the unfortunate position once more in that should they advance to the quarters, they would either meet the All Blacks or the hosts France, led by the now Olympic gold medalist one Antoine Dupont. After a great start to the tournament, Ireland was set to face the ferocious Boks. In a game which deserved the prestige of a final, Ireland and South Africa traded hammer and tong.
Where is it? So they're going to try to dig this out, it's there.
Has it come out?
With neither team gaining true ascendancy. Some missed opportunities from Libbok, coupled with a dogged performance from the Irish, ensured that they ended the game victorious and emerged as the odds-on favourite to win the tournament. Ireland then met with a Finn Russell-inspired Scottish outfit, who had drastically improved over the years. In an exciting game, Ireland ran away with it and headed to the quarter-finals as table toppers. Ireland had with them an air of confidence and a game plan to back it up. A 9th World Cup quarter-final followed, and Ireland was set to face the challenge of the Haka. The game that would transpire was more than anyone could have hoped for, and an absolute delight for all neutral fans tuning in. With the final four so close, Ireland had once again fell short of the hurdle. However, on this occasion, it did not appear as though the Irish had choked. They put in a performance deserving of a victory. It simply wasn't meant to be. So why does history keep repeating itself? Yes, we all agree that they had difficult quarter-final matchups. But without stating the obvious, this is the top 8. Who did you expect your opponents to be? So there can be no excuse, because to win the World Cup, you must conquer whichever side is put in front of you. On a sad note, however, players like the rangy marauding Keith Wood, the powerful silky midfielder BOD, veteran O'Connell and the salt and peppered Ronan O'Gara never showcased their talents to the world on the highest rugby platform. With the current crop of players, an experienced British and Irish Lions head coach Andy Farrell building on the foundation laid by Kiwi Joe Schmidt, 2023 seemed as good as a time as any to break the duck, and they nearly did. Now, one cannot deny the dreadful track record of the Irish rugby football quarter-final history in the Rugby World Cup. So, what are they missing? After all, didn't they beat eventual winners South Africa fair and square in pool play? So, they do have the it factor. Okay, in the 2015 edition against the Pumas, they did have an injury crisis. In the 23 edition, had they won that playoff match, they would have tied the world record, 18, for most test wins in succession. Furthermore, the only other two teams to hold that record, Eddie Jones's England of 2016-17 and the All Blacks of 2015-16, both had their streaks ended by the Irish. They do have that winner DNA. Furthermore, when Ireland came to the World Cup in 23, only 1 year prior, the side beat the All Blacks in an epic 2-1 Test Series victory in New Zealand no less. The same team, only a few months after their World Cup exit, met South Africa on home soil and drew a series 1-1 by pulling off a superb 25-24 victory in Durban. No easy feat to win a Test match in the cauldrons of South African rugby. This is but a tiny thumbnail of the great exploits of the Ruggers from the Emerald Isle, who have proved that they are perennial world beaters.
In his final championship appearance at Lansdowne Road, Willie John McBride scored his first and only try for Ireland, adding another chapter to the legend of one of Irish rugby's most celebrated players.
Now, what do you think they're missing? We hope one day Ireland will finally hoist that golden William Webb Ellis Cup, shoulder to shoulder for their glorious people and nation, and finally answer Ireland's call. Now, we'd love to hear your thoughts down below and what Ireland can do to break their streak. As always, thank you for watching, give us a like, subscribe and hit that notification button, and check back for more content on Clutch Rugby.